During their graduation at Buffalo Glen High School, valedictorian Denis Cooverman remembers a talk he had with his dramatic friend Rich about Beth Cooper. Beth is Denis's longtime crush, and Rich is convinced that she'll forget about Denis as soon as they graduate. Rich even suggests that Beth will live her life as if Denis never existed, assuming they live that long. Rich encourages Denis to give a big speech during graduation, warning him that without it, he'll cease to exist in Beth's memory, leading to a lifetime of regret. Feeling the pressure, Denis nervously confesses his love for Beth and his admiration for her from afar during his graduation speech. However, he doesn't stop there. Denis also addresses various classmates, calling out Victoria for eating disorder, Valley for cruelty, Greg for being a bully likely unloved as a child, Beth's boyfriend Kevin for hanging around the school after graduation, and Rich for hiding his homosexuality. Denis is cut off by Dr. Gleason, the teacher, as the uncomfortable atmosphere settles in. After the program, Denis receives angry looks from embarrassed classmates. Dr. Gleason talks to him about his stunt, and he explains that he had to do something so Beth would remember him. Denis asks the teacher if she has ever been in love before, and she recalls her past experiences, suggesting that there's another Beth Cooper out there for him. Beth approaches Denis, expressing her embarrassment but also acknowledging his sweetness. She removes her graduation gown in the middle of their conversation. When Rich arrives, he asserts that he's not gay, and Beth decides to leave, feeling uneasy. Denis invites her to a party at his house. At the party, Kevin confronts Denis for humiliating him and insulting Beth, but Dr. Gleason intervenes before things escalate. On their way home, Rich and Denis argue about Rich's sexuality. Denis supports Rich for who he is and encourages him to be true to himself. They also discuss their graduation gifts, with Rich revealing that his father got him a bill claiming he owes him $200,000. As Denis and Rich prepare for the party, Mr. and Mrs. Cooverman arrive, asking them to be responsible since people are coming over. Denis's dad gives them a bottle of champagne, and his mom warns them not to let the designated driver drink. When Mrs. Cooverman leaves, Mr. Cooverman encourages Denis to follow his heart and mentions having protection in his bedroom. Once Denis's parents leave, Beth and her friends Cammie and Trace arrive. They say Kevin won't be joining them. Inside, things get awkward when Beth brings up her deceased brother. Beth leaves the room to talk to Kevin while the others discuss what to drink. Rich goes upstairs to get protection from Mr. Coover's room, and Denis accidentally cuts himself while opening the champagne. The girls ignore Denis until he hits his face with a cork. Beth helps him and uses a frozen waffle from the refrigerator to soothe his injury. When Denis claims he feels better, Beth notices something unusual. The girls decide to leave despite Denis's protests, but Kevin and his army friends arrive before they can. Denis fails to keep them out, and chaos ensues. Kevin chases Denis and Rich around the house. In Denis's room, Kevin sees a poster of his girlfriend on the ceiling. Denis defends himself with a toy lightsaber, but the situation escalates. Rich hides in the closet, and as the fight continues, he jumps out the window just in time. Beth shows up and knocks out Kevin with a skull. She tells Denis to leave, and as he does, Beth notices her poster on the ceiling. Rich falls to the ground holding onto a water pipe while Kevin pushes Denis off the roof. The friends crawl on the lawn trying to escape Kevin's anger. The army soldiers chase them like they're training for war, but Beth arrives. She accidentally hits Denis with her car before saving him, and they drive away while scolding Kevin. In the car, Denis asks Beth to slow down, but Cammie mentions that Beth always drives like that. Denis thanks Beth for rescuing him, but she explains she's trying to keep Kevin out of trouble. Denis uses Beth's phone to call his parents about the house, but they don't answer. Beth discards her phone to avoid being tracked by Kevin. With nothing else to do, Denis plays a song on the radio, and everyone sings along. They stop at a convenience store to buy beer. Denis apologizes to Beth again, but she doesn't mind and offers to buy band-aids for his scratches. While chatting, Denis notices that Beth's eyes are green with a bit of hazel, not blue. They select beer and chips, but the cashier refuses to sell them liquor due to Beth's ID, which states she's 37. Determined to get her beer, Beth offers the cashier a passionate kiss, leaving both him and Denis stunned. After this, Beth enthusiastically returns to her friends with the drinks. Awkwardly, Denis comments that Beth's action was peculiar. When Beth's friends discover she kissed the cashier for 2 seconds, they applaud her bold move. Rich adds a humorous comment about doing 2 seconds, asserting it's not gay because of the 3-second rule, normally for food. However, Denis, more to himself, murmurs she's not Beth Cooper. The teenagers go to the woods, build a bonfire, and drink. Beth opens her beer with her teeth, but when Denis tries, he breaks his tooth and coughs it up on Beth. While Cammy, Trace, and Rich leave to pee, Beth and Denis discuss their plans after graduation. Proudly, Denis mentions pursuing a medical course at Stanford. Beth, unsure if she can afford college, brings up the convenience store incident. Disappointed, Denis says she's better than the girl who kissed a cashier. Meanwhile, Rich, Cam, and Trace get chased by cows after disturbing them. Rich gets bitten in the neck. When they reach a car, Beth instructs Rich to leave his shoes to the cow droppings, and Rich reluctantly obeys. Beth recklessly drives without lights, and everyone screams. After Denis pleads to turn the headlights back on, they hit another car, realizing it's Denis's parents making love in the woods. Despite Denis wanting to leave, Beth advises against talking to his father with his pants down before driving away. They go to Valley's grand party, where Denis expresses concern for embarrassing Beth during his speech. However, Rich and the girls aren't too concerned and join the other students. Inside, Denis feels down when Beth talks to some guys. He excuses himself to the bathroom, but unfortunately Greg finds and takes him to a room, wondering how Denis knew about his problem. Greg hugs Denis and admits he sometimes doesn't remember attacking people. Denis advises him to seek professional help, and Greg promises to call him about it. They share another hug. Denis talks to Rich about Beth and the consequences of his confession. Victoria and her friend Patty show up, praising Denis for his outstanding speech. Patty wonders what happened to Denis's face, and when they discuss how Denis put Kevin in the hospital, Victoria reveals that Mr. Army Man is upstairs. Rich has to tell them he needs to meet his female fiancée, but Valley spots them before they can leave, and Beth sees that the guy she's kissing is Kevin. Kevin and his friends attack Denis and Rich, with Beth unable to stop them. The army guys escort Denis and Rich to the living room while Beth decides to leave with Kevin, preparing to harm Denis. Denis tries to ask the crowd if they'll let Kevin hear him, and their PD instructor interrupts, setting ground rules. Denis insists Kevin already has the girl and embarrassed him, so he surrenders. Kevin still pinches him, but Patty comes to his aid, telling him he can take Kevin down even when he can't get up. Greg shows up in defense of his new buddy, single-handedly beating up Kevin and his cronies, including the gym teacher. Kevin manages to get up and give Greg a few roundhouse kicks before turning back to Denis. Beth crashes her ex-boyfriend's Hummer through the house to rescue her friends. Greg beats up Kevin, and as Denis and company leave, he scolds Beth for breaking laws. Beth recklessly drives until they reach their school. Beth and the others use her cheerleader ID to enter the school, going to the gym. Rich joins the girls in performing a dance routine. Beth gets emotional after dancing but doesn't say anything, heading to the shower with her friends. Rich encourages Denis to join the girls, but Denis says he doesn't have to prove anything. Rich ignores him and goes to the shower room, and Denis follows. Beth teases Denis by removing her towel, and because he hesitates to join, Rich reminds him to seize the day. Rich undresses to finally take a shower, and as Denis undresses too, Kevin and his buddies arrive. Kevin pinches Denis, but Rich shows up and towel whips the army guys with military precision. Rich lets Denis and the girls escape, saying he can handle Kevin and his friends since he's been preparing for that moment all his life. Rich has been practicing his towel snapping skills since he was a kid. He's so good at it that he easily takes on 3 guys. He then joins Denis and the girls. They take Beth's car, which was brought back by Kevin. They argue about where they should go. Trey suggests they go to her father's cabin, but Denis wants to go home. Beth tells Denis that he started this mess when he confessed his love for someone he barely knows at school. Rich defends Denis, saying that Denis knows a lot about the girl. Denis reminds Beth that she said he was sweet and came to his house, but Cammy reveals that they did it just for fun. Trey's gives Denis tampons for his bleeding nose. As they pass through the woods, Beth tells Denis that guys often confess their love for her because they want something from her. Despite this, Denis manages to make Beth laugh. She asks him to take off his stinky shirt, which he accidentally drops while driving. Beth backs up so Denis can retrieve it. When Denis realizes he's only in his underwear, Beth lends him a poncho. Together, they search for Denis's shirt. Beth admits that she likes going out with Kevin because other girls look at her differently when she's with him. Denis believes that there are many good guys who'd love to be with her. Beth asks Denis why he confessed his love for her. Denis explains that he realized it was his last chance to talk to her. Beth thanks him for his confession. When they find the shirt, they're chased by a raccoon. They drink at Tracy's father's cabin and toast to the greatest night ever. Denis decides to join Beth in watching the sunrise and asks about her brother. Beth tells Denis about her brother, who died when she was only 2. Denis believes that her presence meant a lot to her brother. Beth thanks him for saying that. She asks him if he still loves her, and Denis admits that she's different from what he imagined. They talk about high school memories. Beth thinks her life will be ordinary from now on, but Denis tells her that she's the most alive person he's ever met. With that, they share a kiss. Inside the cabin, Rich sleeps with TRA and Cammy. They drop Denis off later that morning. Mr. Quaver, Denis's dad, is happy that his son had fun but tells him that he needs to be punished for what happened to the house. Once Denis's father goes inside, Beth and Denis wish each other good luck. Denis gives Beth a quick peck on the cheek, but she's not fully satisfied. She then leans in and plants a kiss on his lips, thanking him for his love. Denis promises to see her at the reunion and says he'll marry her if they're both single then. With that, they part ways. Rich also says goodbye to TR and Cammy. As they go inside the house, Rich confesses to Denis that he thinks he might be bisexual. He urges Denis to pursue his relationship with Beth further. Denis decides he won't wait until the reunion to declare his feelings for her.